Okay, equivalent fractions, lesson 6. So to start off, let's represent the shaded rectangles as a fraction of the total. I'm going to change my pen color today. I'm going to go blue. All right, so there's 2 parts. 1 out of the 2 is shaded. There's 4 parts. 2 out of the 4 are shaded. There's 8 parts, and 4 out of the 8 parts are shaded. And there is 16 parts, and 8 out of the 16 is shaded. Now, if you look at the size of each shape, it's actually the same size shape. So whether you eat, this half, or you eat those 2, or you eat those 4 pieces of cake, or you eat those 8 pieces of cake, you're still eating the same amount of cake. And I wish I had some cake right now. So each fraction in the example above represents the same number. Okay. Hint, if this is confusing, convert each fraction to a decimal. So divide the top by the bottom. And if you do that, each one of these gives you 0.5. Okay? So equivalent fractions have the same value even though they may look different. So equivalent fractions can be defined as fractions with different numerators and denominators that represent the value or proportion of the whole. A lot of words going on there. If you multiply or divide both the top and the bottom by the same number, the fraction keeps its value. All right? So to go from this step to this step, all the person had to do was divide both the denominator and the numerator by the same value, and you get the same thing. And then to go from this one to this one, they divided it again equally. Okay? But it still has the same value. And that's what's important here. So let's figure out, how do we go from 4/5 to something that has a denominator of 10? Well, what times 5 gives me 10? And it's 2. So we need to do the same thing to both the top and the bottom, and we're going to get 8 out of 10. Let me just clean that up a little bit there. Okay, 2 over 2, 2 over 2 simply equals 1. That's why you can multiply by any same number as long as you're doing the top and the bottom, and you'll get an equivalent fraction. So let's think here. How do I go from 4 to 36? What do I multiply by? And it's got to be 9. So if I do the same thing at the top, I'm going to get 27 over 36. If I go from 6 to 36, I got to multiply by 6. So let's do the same thing to the top, and it's 6 out of 36. They're equivalent fractions. What times 12 will get me to 36? Multiplied by 3. So do the same to the top, and we get 21 out of 36. And 18 times 2 gives me 36, so 11 times 2 is 22. They're all equivalent. So let's figure out and use these symbols if they are the same. Well, let's check. How do I go from 7 to 28? Or how do I go from 4 to 12? What do I multiply by? So if I multiply this by 3, I get 12. If I multiply this by 3, does that equal 28? No, it equals 21. So are they equivalent? No. So let's figure out which one is more. All right, let's convert them to the same denominator. So we're going to look at this piece here. How do we go from 7 to 28? And that's going to multiply this part by 4 and multiply that by 4. So 16 over 28 versus 12 over 28. Which one is greater? That one is. And if you want to check the decimals, 4 divided by 7 is 0.57-ish, and 12 divided by 28 is 0.42-ish. Okay? Check the denominators. How do I go from 6 to 48? Well, you multiply by 8. So let's do the same thing to the top. And I get 40 over 48 and 40 over 48. Well, what are they, folks? They're equal. How do I go from 10 to 30? I multiply by 3. So if I multiply that by 3, I'm going to get 9 thirtieths versus 21 thirtieths. And that is clearly greater. And if I go from 9 to 54, that's multiplying by 6. Well, folks, it appears that these are also equal or equivalent. Now, one thing we need to review is converting from mixed number to improper fraction. Now, you're going to see this again and again. So let's do it. Multiply the whole number part, which is this, by the denominator, and then add it to the numerator. So 4 What we're doing here is 4 times 5 plus 1. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 plus 1 is 21. So overall, this equals 21 fifths. 8 times 2 plus 1. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 plus 1 is 17 over 2, and it's still negative. Don't forget that. 5 times 3 plus 2 is 15 plus 2 is 17 thirds. And one more. 9 times 4 is 36, and 36 plus 3 is 39. So negative 39 over 4. All right, going the other way, divide the numerator by the denominator, write down the whole number, and then write down any remainder. So 33 divided by 10, that goes in 3 times, and we get 30. And what's our remainder? 3. So this is 3 and 3/10. Okay, it's still out of 10. 17 divided by 7 goes in twice, remainder 3, so 2 and 3/7. Okay, 29 divided by 8 goes in 3 times with a remainder 5. So this is negative 3 and 5/8.